The first thing I noticed was the silence, not the missing furniture. Not the pale rectangle on the carpet where the piano had stood for 42 years. Not my sister Phoebe counting cash beside the fireplace. The silence came first, because Grandma's upright piano had never been completely quiet. Even when no one touched it, the old wood clicked in winter. The pedals breathed when the house settled. And one stubborn string near middle C hummed whenever buses passed outside. That afternoon, I came in from work carrying a tuning kit in one hand and a paper bag of oranges in the other. The piano was gone. My mother looked at the carpet instead of at me. Phoebe said, "Before you start, it was just sitting there." "Where is it?" "Sold," she said. I set the oranges on the hall table so carefully that one rolled out and tapped against the skirting board. To whom? A buyer. A proper buyer. He is bringing a van. From the driveway, a man in white cotton gloves called, "Excuse me, is Eliza Hart here?" Phoebe frowned. "Why would he need you?" The man held up the piano bench, not the piano itself. "Because her name is inside it," he said. Before I tell you what he found, subscribe if you like emotional English stories with a clear ending. And tell me in the comments what country you are listening from. My name is Eliza Hart. I am 34 years old, and I repair pianos for a living. That sentence makes some people smile politely, because they imagine I dust antiques in a cardigan. The truth is less delicate. I lift action frames, regulate hammers, replace cracked keytops, crawl under stages with a flashlight in my mouth, and listen to one note until I can hear the screw that is lying. My grandmother Iris taught me to listen that way. Her piano was a walnut upright made in 1928 by a small London maker that no longer exists. It was not worth millions. It was not the kind of instrument that makes auction houses whisper. But it had a voice like warm rain on a window, and Grandma had kept every repair receipt since 1966 in a blue biscuit tin. The front room had always been arranged around it. The sofa faced it. The lamp leaned toward it. Even the family photographs seemed to gather on the mantelpiece, as if waiting for a song to start. At Christmas, Phoebe stood beside that piano and sang while relatives filmed her. I sat on the bench afterward and wiped lipstick from a key because one of her friends had leaned over with a glass of wine and called the instrument cute. Grandma saw me cleaning it and handed me a soft cloth. "People clap for the voice," she said. "Somebody must care for the throat." I did not understand the sentence fully then. Years later, it became my job description. When I was 8, she let me sit beside her on the bench and press one key at a time. "Do not hit," she would say. Invite. I invited middle C so often that she wrote my name on a strip of masking tape and stuck it under the keybed. "So the piano remembers you," she said. My sister Phoebe hated that story. She hated most stories in which I was chosen without asking. Phoebe is 2 years older, beautiful in a sharp, polished way, with perfect hair and the instinctive belief that a room should arrange itself around her. When we were children, she performed. I observed. She sang at family parties. I tuned the sticky keys after everyone left. My mother, June, rewarded performance because it was easier to photograph. "Phoebe has presence," she would say. About me, she said, "Eliza is good with her hands." Again, it sounded like praise, until I understood the ceiling inside it. Grandma understood. She never argued with my mother in public. She simply saved me small islands. The blue biscuit tin. The ivory key top that had cracked and been replaced. The cloth she used to cover the piano at night. The little brass key that locked the bench. "One day, this will be yours," she told me when I was 17. My mother heard and laughed from the kitchen. "Mom, do not encourage her. It is an old piano, not a castle." Grandma did not look away from me. "Some castles have strings," she said. When Grandma died in March, the house changed temperature. My mother inherited the terrace house because Grandma had arranged that years earlier. Phoebe took jewelry, 2 lamps, and the silver tea service she had once called Dusty. I asked for the piano. My mother said, "We will discuss it when things calm down." Phoebe said, "You cannot just claim the largest thing in the room." Grandma said it was mine. Grandma said many sentimental things, Phoebe replied. The funeral tea was still on the dining table when she said it. Cucumber sandwiches had curled at the edges. Someone had left a black umbrella dripping into the hall stand. I remember those details because grief sometimes refuses the large facts and saves the small ones instead. My Aunt Margaret heard Phoebe and looked at the piano. "Iris did say Eliza was the piano girl," she murmured. Phoebe smiled. "Being the piano girl is not a legal category." "Neither is being the loudest," Aunt Margaret said. My mother cut in before I could love my aunt too visibly. "Nobody is deciding anything today." That sounded reasonable. It was also how decisions disappeared in my family. A thing was postponed until the person who cared most looked unreasonable for bringing it up again. I did not shout. Grief made my voice thin, and I was afraid it would break if I pushed. Instead, I kept tuning the piano every Saturday. I cleaned the soundboard, I repaired the loose pedal, I oiled the bench hinges. I put the blue biscuit tin in the bottom shelf of my own workshop because the receipts were safer there. My mother allowed this because maintenance was labor, and labor was where she thought I belonged. For 4 months, nobody touched the subject directly. Every Saturday, I brought a small notebook and wrote down what the piano needed, not because anyone had asked me to, because Grandma had taught me that care becomes invisible when it leaves no trace. May 4th, tighten music desk hinge. May 11th, clean dust from bass strings. May 18th, Mother says room looks crowded. Says it while standing with 2 new floor lamp boxes. June 1st, Phoebe asks whether anyone even plays that thing. I play 1 chord after she leaves. Those entries were not dramatic. They were breadcrumbs. They proved to me, on the days my family made me feel foolish, that love is often a series of small appointments you keep when nobody is applauding. I did not know then that those quiet notes would steady me later. I only knew that if nobody else wanted to remember the piano accurately, I could at least refuse to let my own memory become negotiable. That mattered because my family had a talent for sanding events down until the sharpest person looked like the problem. A notebook was not a weapon. It was a witness I could carry without asking permission. Then my mother decided to redecorate the front room. "It is too gloomy," she said. "Your grandmother kept everything so brown." I looked at the piano. Brown is not a crime. Phoebe ran her fingers over the lid without pressing. "It dominates the space. It is a piano. It is meant to have presence." My mother sighed. "Eliza, not every object can be a shrine. Not every object is for sale." Phoebe smiled. "That depends who owns it." The sentence should have warned me. 2 weeks later, I was at the Northbridge Conservatory tuning a practice room grand that had suffered through a children's recital. My phone buzzed 6 times inside my tool roll. I ignored it because you do not answer family drama with a tuning pin in your hand. When I finished, there were messages from my mother. Please come after work. Do not be difficult. Phoebe found a solution. It is better for everyone. The final message said, we need the room clear before Sunday. I called. No answer. I drove across town with my hands smelling of felt and metal. By the time I reached Grandma's Street, a removal van was parked outside the house. The back doors were open. A thick quilt lay on the pavement. And the place by the bay window was empty. I walked in without knocking. I still had a key because every Saturday I came to care for the instrument nobody else claimed to want. Phoebe was by the fireplace with a bank envelope. My mother stood near the window, twisting Grandma's curtain tie around her finger. Where is it? I asked. Phoebe said, do not be theatrical. Where is Grandma's piano? It is on the van. I turned toward the door. My mother said, Eliza, wait. I did not. The buyer was in the driveway, supervising 2 movers. He was around 60, narrow-faced, with silver hair, a linen jacket, and gloves too clean for casual furniture removal. Stop, I said. The movers paused with one end of the piano already lifted. Phoebe came out behind me. Ignore her. She is emotional. The buyer looked from her to me. And you are? Eliza Hart. He lowered his hands immediately. Ah, he said. Then I am very glad you came. Phoebe's voice sharpened. Mr. Val, we have an agreement. We have a pending sale, he said. Subject to provenance. It is a family piano. So I gathered. He lifted the piano bench from the side of the van and opened it. Inside the lid, protected under a sheet of old brown paper, was a white envelope taped flat. My name was written across it in Grandma's hand. Eliza, when they finally argue about the piano. For a second, the driveway, the van, and my sister all became very far away. My mother whispered, I did not know that was there. Phoebe said, anyone could have put that in. Mr. Vale looked at her over his glasses. The tape has been oxidizing for years. I took the envelope. My fingers shook so badly that he gently placed the bench on the ground in front of me, like a small altar. May I? He asked. I nodded. He cut the top open with a penknife. Inside was a letter, 3 photographs, and the little strip of masking tape with my name on it from when I was 8. I knew it before I saw the handwriting. My dear Eliza, if you are reading this, your mother and Phoebe have decided the piano is too large, too brown, or too much trouble. They may be right about all 3. They will still be wrong to sell it. Phoebe made a sound. This is ridiculous. Mr. Val said, please let her read. My mother did not move. I read the rest aloud because the letter asked me to. I give this piano to Eliza Hart, who has cared for it, learned from it, and heard it better than anyone in this family. I have told June. I have told Phoebe. If memory becomes convenient after I am gone, the bench will remember for me. The driveway was very quiet. The letter continued. The receipts are in the blue tin because Eliza knows where to keep records. The brass bench key is hers. The cracked ivory from 1999 is hers. The middle C that hums when the number 47 bus passes is hers too, if a note can belong to someone. I had to stop there. My mother pressed a hand to her mouth. Phoebe reached for the paper. I pulled it back. You are not taking one more thing out of my hands, I said. If someone in your family tried to sell the one object that carried your memories, would you fight for it or walk away? Tell me what you would do. Mr. Vale asked to see the photographs. One showed me at 8, with my knees swinging below the bench. One showed Grandma standing beside me at 16 while I replaced a felt. The last showed the piano in my workshop 5 years earlier, its action removed, its keys lined up like sleeping teeth. On the back, Grandma had written dates. Mr. Vale turned to Phoebe. "You told me the instrument had been untouched for decades." Phoebe flushed. "It was old." "I meant emotionally untouched. That is not a phrase in valuation." My mother said, "How much did you offer?" $600, I said, looking at the envelope in Phoebe's hand. Phoebe snapped. "It needs space. You cannot build your whole identity around Grandma's clutter." "It is not clutter. It is not a career either." The buyer's face changed. "Actually," he said, "Miss Hart's work is why I came." Phoebe blinked. "What?" Mr. Vale gestured toward the piano. "I restore early 20th century British uprights for teaching studios." A colleague at Northbridge told me Eliza Hart had kept an old Merriweather in remarkable playing condition. "I came because of the repair history, not because of your listing." For the first time all afternoon, Phoebe had no prepared expression. My mother looked at me. "You never said it was valuable. You never asked what I knew." Mr. Vale said, "Financially, it is not a fortune. Musically, it is unusually alive." "Those are different sentences." I almost smiled through the ache. Grandma would have liked him. Phoebe folded her arms. "Fine. If Eliza wants it, she can buy it from us." The old version of me would have started explaining. I would have listed Saturdays, receipts, parts, hours, promises. I would have tried to make a courtroom out of a driveway, but the letter was in my hand. The bench remembered. "No," I said. Phoebe laughed. "No? I am not buying my own piano from the people who tried to sell it before I came home from work." My mother said, "Eliza, please do not speak to your sister like that in front of strangers." Miss Vale removed his gloves slowly. "Mrs. Hart," he said, "with respect, I am no longer a buyer. I am a witness to a disputed sale." That word witness did what my pain could not. It moved my mother's fear from reputation to consequence. "Nobody is disputing anything," she said quickly. "I am," I said. The movers lowered the piano back onto its casters. Phoebe looked at Mr. Vale. "We had a deal." "No," he said. "We had a claim from a seller who appears not to have had clean authority. It is in my mother's house." "Many things are in houses," he said. "That does not answer ownership." My mother sat down on the garden wall. I had never seen her sit in the middle of an argument. She usually stood, so everyone else had to look up. "Mom," Phoebe said, "say something." My mother looked at the letter. "Your grandmother did tell me." The words came out so quietly, I almost missed them. Phoebe turned. "What?" "Years ago. She told me the piano was for Eliza." I felt the air leave my chest. "Then why did you let her sell it?" My mother twisted the curtain tie still looped around her wrist. She must have carried it outside without noticing. "Because I did not think a piano counted the way a house or jewelry counts. It counted to me. I know that now." "No," I said. "You knew it then. You just did not count me." No one spoke. Some sentences are not loud because they do not need help. Mr. Val asked if I had a place for the piano. "My workshop," I said. "There is a teaching room in the back." Phoebe scoffed. "You cannot move it today." "Yes," Mr. Vale said, "we can." She stared at him. You are taking her side because she cried. I am taking the instrument's side, he said. It has had a better caretaker than seller. The movers looked at their shoes, which meant they agreed. We went inside so Mr. Vale could write a cancellation note for the sale. He wrote it by hand at Grandma's dining table, then had my mother sign that no transfer would proceed and that the $600 would be returned. Phoebe refused to sign. Mr. Vale said, "Then I will note your refusal." She signed so hard the pen tore the paper. My mother gave the cash back with both hands. It looked smaller leaving her than it must have looked arriving. While the movers prepared the piano again, I went to the front room alone. The carpet mark was still there, a ghost in the shape of an instrument. On the mantelpiece was a framed photograph of Phoebe singing at a Christmas party. Grandma was in the corner of the photo, not watching Phoebe, but watching my hands on the keys. I had never noticed that before. My mother came in behind me. I thought if the piano was gone, the house would feel less like waiting for her, she said. I believed that part. Grief makes people rearrange furniture because it cannot rearrange the past. You could have said that. You would have said no. Yes. That is why I did not say it. There it was. Small, plain, ugly. True. You chose the answer you wanted over the person it belonged to, I said. She nodded. I wanted her to apologize properly. I wanted the kind of apology that names the wound, without being led to it like a child crossing a road. She said, I am sorry I let Phoebe rush me. It was not enough. You did not let Phoebe do this, I said. You helped. Her eyes filled, but I was not cruel enough to call tears manipulation, and not naive enough to call them repair. I am sorry, she said again. I helped. That one I kept. If you listen to stories like this to improve your English, check the description after the episode for useful practice links. For now, stay with the scene and the words. Moving a piano is not graceful. There is no cinematic swell, no elegant glide through memory. There are straps, ramps, grunted counts, door frames measured twice, and the terrifying moment when several hundred pounds of wood and iron rests on the strength of two men and a plan. I stood by the gate with the bench in my arms. Phoebe watched from the window, refusing to come outside. My mother stood beside me. She is angry, she said. Good. My mother looked startled. Anger can be useful, I said. It tells her something did not go her way. That is new information. For the first time that day, my mother almost laughed. At my workshop, Mr. Vale's movers placed the piano in the teaching room at the back, where afternoon light came through high windows and landed on the keys like a hand. The first note I played was middle C. It hummed. I covered my mouth. Mr. Val stood in the doorway, gloves tucked into his pocket. She kept her voice, he said. Grandma or the piano? Yes, he said. That answer did break me, but not in the driveway where everyone could use my grief as proof that I was unreasonable. It broke me privately, with one hand on the fallboard and the bench key in my palm. Mr. Vale did not offer to buy the piano again. Instead, he asked if I would restore 2 school uprights for a program he advised. Paid work, he said. Proper invoice. No family discount unless I become family, which I do not plan to. I laughed so suddenly it startled both of us. Then, yes, I said. That evening, I opened the blue biscuit tin in my workshop and matched Grandma's receipts to the letter. There was the 1999 key top replacement. the 2008 pedal repair. The 2017 regulation I had done under her supervision, while she pretended not to correct me every 5 minutes. At the bottom of the tin was another envelope, smaller than the first. Inside was the brass bench key and a note that said, "For the room you will make around it." I sat on the floor for a long time. The room did not become real at once. For the first 2 weeks, the piano looked stranded in the workshop, like a relative who had arrived early to a party and was pretending not to mind. I walked around it with mugs of tea. I checked humidity. I adjusted the caster cups. I opened and closed the lid more than necessary. Then a mother from Northbridge called. "Mr. Vale gave me your number," she said. "My daughter is frightened of recitals, but she likes old instruments. Do you teach?" I looked at the piano. The afternoon light had made a bright bar across middle C. "I do now," I said. The girl's name was Anya. She was 12, serious, and suspicious of praise. At her first lesson, she placed both hands in her lap and said, "My school keyboard does not argue with me." "Good pianos argue," I said. "Why?" "Because they answer with their whole body." She considered that, then pressed one note. The hum came back, soft and familiar. Anya looked at me with wide eyes. "Is it broken?" "No," I said. "It is telling you its name." That became the first lesson in the room Grandma had imagined. Not scales, not posture. Listening. By the 3rd week, the retired bus driver arrived with sheet music folded into quarters. His name was Malcolm, and he wanted to learn Moon River because his wife had hummed it while making toast. "I am too old for lessons," he said. "The piano is older than you." He looked relieved. "Then it can be patient." On Saturdays, after students left, I made notes in a ledger, the way Grandma had. Date, weather, tuning touch, student comments. It was not necessary for business. It was necessary for continuity. One entry said, "Anya asked whether a note can be lonely." Another said, "Malcolm played first 8 bars without apologizing." Another said, "Mom came by and dusted the photograph frames. Did not move anything." That last entry mattered more than it looked. My mother had always rearranged rooms to prove she had entered them. In my workshop, she began asking before touching. The first time she did it, she pointed at a stack of music books and said, "May I move these to the shelf?" I said yes. Then had to go into the kitchenette and breathe for a minute. Repair is sometimes embarrassingly small. It is a person asking before moving a book. Phoebe texted at 9:14 p.m. "You embarrassed me in front of a buyer." I typed, "You tried to sell my inheritance for $600. Then I deleted it. I typed, "You embarrassed yourself by needing a buyer to explain ownership." I deleted that too. Finally, I wrote, "Do not contact me about the piano again." She replied, "You always think you are morally superior." I wrote, "No. I think I am done negotiating with theft." She did not reply. The next week, my mother came to the workshop without Phoebe. She brought the cloth Grandma used to cover the piano at night. I had not noticed it was missing because the larger loss had swallowed everything around it. "I found this in the airing cupboard," she said. "Thank you." She looked around the teaching room. "It suits this place. It always wanted students. Your grandmother said that." "I know." My mother sat on the bench, but did not play. "I did not understand what the two of you had," she said. "You did not have to understand it to respect it." She nodded. "That is fair." It was strange, hearing my mother accept a sentence without sanding it down. Phoebe says you turned Mr. Vale against us. Mr. Vale can read. My mother's mouth twitched. That was your grandmother's answer to everything. It solves many problems. For a while, we sat in the quiet that was not silence because the piano was there. Then my mother said, "Will you play something?" I almost said no. Some requests arrive too late and expect to be treated as courage. But Grandma had never used music as a weapon, and I did not want to start. I played the hymn she used to play badly on purpose when she wanted me to correct her. My mother cried halfway through, quietly, without covering her face. I let her cry. Not every tear needs to be comforted immediately. Sometimes a person should be allowed to feel the full weight of what they almost sold. 3 months later, the teaching room had 6 students. One was a retired bus driver who wanted to learn the song his wife loved. One was a 12-year-old who talked to the piano before lessons. One was a university student who had grown up with keyboards and had never felt hammers move under her fingers. Every time someone pressed middle C, the old string answered with its tiny hum. I did not fix it. Technically, I could have. Emotionally, I had no intention. Phoebe did not come to the workshop. She told relatives I had weaponized Grandma's memory, which is a dramatic way to say I kept the thing Grandma gave me. Some relatives believed her because Phoebe's version of events arrived with better lighting. Then, Mr. Vale published a small article in a local arts newsletter about restoring teaching instruments. He mentioned the Merriweather upright, saved from an improper estate sale because its caretaker had preserved the repair history. He did not name Phoebe. He did name me. My phone rang for 2 days. My mother called and said, "Your grandmother would be proud." Of the article? Of the room. I accepted that. Phoebe sent one final message. "Enjoy your shrine." I looked at the piano, at the students' penciled notes on the music stand, at the bench where Grandma's letter was now framed beneath glass on the wall. I wrote back, "I am." Then I blocked her for a while. Blocking someone is not always hatred. Sometimes it is an acoustic treatment. You remove the noise so the room can hear itself. A year after Grandma died, we held a small recital in the workshop. My mother came early and brought oranges because she remembered the bag I had dropped in the hall that day. That was the kind of apology she could manage. Fruit, punctuality, and a chair set up without being asked. She also brought the photograph of Phoebe singing at Christmas, the one where Grandma was watching my hands instead of the performance. "I thought this belonged here," she said. Did Phoebe agree? No. Then why bring it? My mother looked at the piano before answering. Because for once, I am trying to put a thing where it belongs, not where it causes the least argument. That sentence stayed with me. I did not forgive everything in that moment. Real forgiveness is not a curtain you drop over broken furniture. But I made space for the sentence because it had cost her something. The 12-year-old played first. The retired bus driver played last. He made 3 mistakes and bowed like a king. After everyone left, my mother touched the side of the piano. "I nearly let it vanish," she said. "Yes, I am glad you came home in time. I am glad the bench waited." She looked at the framed letter. "Your grandmother knew us too well. She knew what mattered." My mother nodded. Those can be the same thing. Maybe that was growth. Maybe it was just grief wearing softer shoes. I no longer needed to decide immediately. I still have the strip of masking tape with my name on it. It is under glass now, beside the brass bench key and the cracked ivory key top from 1999. Students ask about it sometimes. I tell them it is proof that music remembers. That is not the whole truth, but it is true enough for children. For adults, I add more when they need it. I tell them that a promise can be small and still be binding. I tell them that caretaking is not the same as ownership, but sometimes the person who cares is the only person who understands what ownership should mean. I tell them that sentimental value is not a weak form of value. It is often the part that cannot be replaced. Once, Malcolm asked if I ever wished the piano had been worth a fortune, so everyone would understand why I fought. No, I said. Why not? Because then they would understand the price and miss the point. He nodded, then played the first line of his song without looking down. The whole truth is this. Some people will call your memories clutter, because clutter is easier to steal than inheritance. Some people will say an object is just sitting there, because they cannot hear the life inside it. And some promises are not loud. They wait under brown paper, inside a bench, in handwriting nobody can perform over. When the wrong people try to sell what was given to you, you do not have to make yourself small so they can feel generous. You can open the bench. You can read the letter. You can let the room hear the note that always belonged to you. If this story meant something to you, subscribe so you never miss a new long English story. And comment with the object your family would never understand, but you would fight to keep.